Yeah, we're going to light a fire, okay? A fire in our hearts, one that cannot go out for sure. Because this month we are talking about zeal and enthusiasm, and that's the inner fire of the soul. I want to share a story with you. Back in my day, there were no preschools or kindergartens. I know that's hard for some of you to believe. The first time I left home to go to any place like that was when I was 6 years old and entered first grade. Now, that was such a rude awakening for me to leave home. I led a very sheltered life. And when I saw what was happening to children who misbehaved, who upset the teacher in any way, I became a very anxious child. I did not want to upset the teacher, no matter what. That anxiety lasted all through grade school, always trying to do my best so that I wouldn't upset the teacher. And as a sidebar, I just want you to know that children are great observers but very poor interpreters. Okay, don't forget that, yeah. So by the time I got to high school, that anxiety was so ingrained in me that my mother was sick and tired of it. She was sick and tired of the anxiety that she saw me in with going to school, getting all my work done, making sure this, making sure that. And I was going to turn 16 in about 2 weeks, so I told her I was quitting school. Yeah, that legally you could do that at 16, and so I'm doing it. Never mind the fact that I got good grades. It didn't matter. I was getting out of there. Now, can you imagine the self-talk that went on, my ego of lack, what was going on within me, that had control over me, that I was so upset I wanted to quit school? I did go on to, I didn't quit, okay? How the story that I told myself the very first day of school in first grade, I allowed it to become my identity and personality. What a horrible way to live. And yet, if we are honest with ourselves, each one of us can go back to our young lives when something happened to us and we didn't feel good about ourselves, we didn't feel worthy. Some point in our life, something happened to us. And that ego took off with that and had a good time with it. And that's the thing that triggers us now as adults when we don't feel good enough, smart enough, whatever. The Buddha says, no, he didn't say that. Do we have it now? Yeah. The Buddha says, the mind is everything. What we think we become. Where have we heard that before? Isn't that what Unity says? Thoughts held in mind actually produce, don't they? Whatever we think, we become. Well, one day, I was coming home from school, and I saw thumbtacked to the wall in the hall of our house, thumbtacked. Something I thought, I wonder what my mother's up to now, and I walked right past it. She got me, brought me back, and she says, I want you to read this. So here it is. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not quit. Life is strange with its twists and its turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure turns about when they might have won had they stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace is slow. you may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night came down how close he was to the golden crown. Let me see if this is right. Yay, okay. This is the last stanza, and you have a handout when you leave, and this will be on that. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worse that you must not quit. She sat me down after that, and she explained why quitting was not an option. And she said, I'm going to share a few things with you from my childhood, and what would have happened if I would have quit? You wouldn't even be here. So you can't quit. She said, you used to be this enthusiastic, fun-loving child. You're supposed to be that. You're supposed to be happy in this world. Well, I think because I was 16, I was finally ready to hear some things. And that day, I didn't think I knew more than my mother, right? Like a lot of 16-year-olds do. Something shifted in me that day. I never talked about giving up again. My mother was practicing zeal. She was determined and dedicated. It was the Holy Spirit working in her and through her. My mother kept that poem thumbtacked up for quite a while before she took it down, just in case. And as I look back at that time in my life, which seemed endless at the time, I was amazed at how much I allowed that self-talk to run my life. How I created a belief system when I was 6 years old that followed me everywhere I went. You need to be on guard. You need to be on guard. You don't want to upset anybody. You don't want to upset anybody. I was spiritually unconscious. Any awareness of having a choice as to how I could change my thinking was absent. But thankfully, I began to wake up little by little after that precious time spent with my mother. Someone with zeal oftentimes inspires others, and it is their dedication and energy that can become contagious. That's exactly what happened to me. She had the Holy Spirit working with her. It was zeal, and it became contagious. That's what my mother provided for me without me realizing, all because she was open to the Spirit within her and wasn't going to let me quit no matter what. But you know what's interesting? We think we're free, but we're controlled by our mind telling us who we are and what we're supposed to be. Isn't that amazing? Why? Because we don't realize the truth. There is only God in you, God in me. That's it. Everything we think or say or do, every moment of every day, God is with us. God's closer than our breath. That's what we hear, right? Closer than our breath as we try to explain God inside. Always taking us to a higher consciousness if we just stop any negative mind chatter. If we just realize that we are the radiating presence of God. Okay, I want you to hear that. You are, I am, the radiating presence of God. Now that's something to celebrate. You radiate, whether you know it or not, from the energy that you have within you that comes forth. You are that radiating presence of God. And here's what Charles Fillmore says about zeal. Zeal is intensity, ardor, enthusiasm, the inward fire of the soul that urges humankind onward, regardless of the intellectual mind of caution and conservatism. Think about that. He was saying that back in the late 1800s. Come on, you guys, get with it. Why are you being so cautious? Why are you afraid to be who you are? And from the 12 powers, which we've been studying all year long here, we hear, never repress the impulse, the force, the zeal welling up within us. Commune with it in spirit and praise it for the great energy and efficiency in action. That sounds cool. All right. Jesus taught his disciples. He actually taught his disciples to combine their talents so that every person would grow in wisdom and zeal. And that's what we do around here with all of our volunteers and with our staff. We say, okay, you have all these gifts and talents. We want them. We want them. We want you happy. We want you doing what you want to do. And there's so much energy and zeal and enthusiasm with what everybody does here. You are not to repress, but to guide the spirit of enthusiasm, which is in cooperation with wisdom that brings you happiness and satisfaction. So, beginning of the year, we started with, I don't know what the first one was, but I know the second one was February, and it's always love. So love, life, faith, strength, the power of imagination and understanding and order. So I don't think we are saying go crazy, do whatever you want. We're saying use those gifts of spirit to bring forth that zeal, to bring forth that energy. And remember, Jesus said, if you think I've done great things, just wait until you see what you can do. Jesus was talking about zeal, that urge within us to do more, to be more. When we realize that God and I are one, enthusiasm and zeal just naturally come forth. So here we go. Let's try this. We get up in the morning. We are so excited. We are enthusiastic. Yes, we heard what Reverend Eileen said, and we're going to be enthusiastic, and we're going to be full of zeal, and we're going to say our prayers, and we are going to meditate, and we're going to be in the present moment. We do great with that. We're done, and we're like real proud of ourselves. Oh, I feel so spiritual right now. Oh, it's so wonderful. And then what? The stream of consciousness comes in. It's when the work starts, right? The stream of consciousness comes in. Whether it's internal or external, all kinds of scenarios come up. And we become the degree of importance that we give that, right? We become unconscious. We become unconscious to who we are. And we look at all the problems. Where did the zeal go? Hey, my enthusiasm was at a 10, and it's now just dropped at a 0. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? We do this to ourselves, don't we? Yeah. We are forgetting who we are. We are God in action, not God in worry. God in action. We can get ourselves worked up so much in a day that we can't even sleep at night, worrying about the what if this and what if that scenarios that fill our lives if we don't watch ourselves. And by the way, 97% of all worry never happens. It's in vain. 97%. So where did keeping myself that morning in the present moment go? Well, when we realize that we got out of that space, what do? We stop and we breathe. We breathe in and we breathe out a few times to quiet our minds. Now, Gary and I listened to a TED Talk that was for young professionals. Well, guess what one of the things this guy said on his TED Talk? You could have done the TED Talk, by the way. Thoughts held in mind will, what? produce after their kind, right. He said that in his TED Talk, trying to get these young professionals to understand that they need to take their time, they need to stop, they need to breathe. So many things that we talk about here every Sunday, he talked about. I went, we are with it. We are really with it. It's very exciting. So I was helping him. He couldn't hear me because it was a TED Talk, but I was saying, you go, man, you keep going, because there's so much that we get here on a Sunday morning, just being with each other. The music, I mean, come on, I couldn't stand still this morning, I don't know. So we allow ourselves to get in the moment so that we can manifest what it is that we want. We need to be in the moment. And that's what he was saying yesterday. To these young men and women, get in the present moment. Stop jumping ahead, so far ahead that you don't know what you're doing except being worn out. That's the use of zeal, inward zeal, that fire. We have to stop playing small. We have to be that fire that will never go out within us. Not worrying about what others think, instead being ourselves. If we worry about what ifs, listen to this, this is really interesting. If you're worrying about what ifs, it's just as painful as if it's actually happening. It actually becomes a mental event. We wear ourselves out worrying, don't we? Yeah, we wear ourselves out. So guess what? Time to turn up the dimmer switch. It's time to be the light of God. Turn up choice. Brighten your awareness and choose again. That switch will save you from your negative stream of consciousness. Just turn it up. That dimmer switch is a new awareness for us. It's a new choice that kicks in again. It's a way to get rid of useless thinking. And once again, we awaken to our infinite God self. Zeal and enthusiasm becomes a new adventure for us. Life is an adventure. Like all spiritual abilities, zeal is natural to us. It's a natural inborn thing, like all the other gifts of spirit. And we can choose to eagerly awaken each day with that enthusiasm, that anticipation. And when we do that, watch what happens. Spiritual zeal is the harnessing of that enthusiasm as a propellant for a purposeful life, an adventure. It's an attitude that's contagious. It's courageous. It's single-minded. It's devoted to your purpose. If the only purpose you ever have in your life is to work on being in the present moment, controlling your stream of thoughts, feelings of anger, resentment, boredom, anxiety, if you can have control over those and allow the presence that is within you to come forth, to say, no, I don't choose that. I choose something different. I'm having at least it's not it's just a meltdown right here. It's yeah, okay. I'm telling you, if you can work on that in your life, then my beloved friends, you are there. You are there. Even if you have to start over 50, 75, or 100 times a day, you are there. You are in the awareness of self. You're in that present moment, and you're taking responsibility for your happiness. One adventure after another. This is what Eckhart Tolle talks about all the time. And if he were here right now and heard this, he'd be proud. of the fact that it's so simple if we just stay in the moment when something comes up for us. So, the Buddha again says, don't dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present. You don't have to think about the future if you're always in the present moment, because it just happens, doesn't it? It just happens right in front of you. Zeal is the rightful power of enthusiasm, having the audacity to say, I am going to do this, no matter what. That's zeal in action. Now, most of us know who Marianne Williamson is. And we refer to her often with this quote, "Your playing small does not serve the world." There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are meant to shine. Right now, right across the way, the children are learning the same thing we are. They are absolutely learning about themselves and the adventures that they have waiting for them. In fact, there's a cute little mirror there, and they're standing in front of it and looking at themselves, and all of that, just so they get the feel for it. I just want to say this to you. It is with true gratitude for you, for every one of you. And it's gratitude for me too, and I'll tell you why. Knowing what we know, doing the work and practicing it. I mean, hearing that man do that TED Talk, I was so proud of all of us and how we work so hard to change our lives so that we can feel that love and that joy. It's our time to be on purpose about God, to be on purpose about our lives, to be on purpose about loving ourselves and others. That's what we were created to be. God in action. And there's something hanging up in the room for the children, and I think it's something each one of us should be wearing too. It's a great big orange sign that says, "Watch out, adventure ahead." Now, this is your job this week, to be the adventure of God in your life. Go and be zeal, will you? All right. Okay. Amen.